22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
And are not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 304. And I am joined with the lovely co-host Lorraine Lopez, and Dr. Bob is in the place to be. And yes, Lorraine is with us. It's not an optical illusion. She is actually here. I first want to just start off. I want to talk about a couple of things, but I just want to start off first by congratulating Lorraine and her brother Hector. They have a new show on WVOX Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. called Latin Rain, the first all-Latino programming on WVOX in 30 years. Should be very good. I implore everyone watching this video and who will see it later to tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on WVOX 1460 AM and WVOX.com. You can also watch it if you have like the TuneIn app, which is what I listen to the show on the first Wednesday. Definitely great. They had their first guest, Yonkers Police Commissioner Mueller on, and heard a good friend of ours, Louis Molina, called in, give some positive words, and I think
called in.
Huh? Yes,
I called in.
So I just wanted to say, it's great, and I wanted to say this officially on the air. It's great that we have all this new black and brown programming. We got, we got the Brother to Brother show on IG every Thursday night. I believe that's at 7:00 too, with Tri-State Jericho, the voice of Westchester, and Brother John. Now we have Latin Rain on WVOX. And it's just a lot more programming. You have Aleda Castile. She has a show called
Culturally
Lit that comes on Mondays, I believe at 7 p.m. on WVOX. Of course, you can catch us every first Monday on WVOX for the Black Westchester Power Hour, 11 a.m. to 12 noon every first Monday. But the black and brown experience is too large to extent for any one entity to cover it all. And what I'm happy about all this new programming coming, and the program, that will be coming soon, is we're all speaking from a different lens. And it'll be so many more people that get covered, and so much more of our stories that will be told, which is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I love that. And I congratulate y'all and wish y'all nothing but the best with your new show.
Thank you, AJ. It truly is a labor of love with me and my brother, and not only when you speak about different lens, my brother and I have different lens, so it's going to be really interesting. The conversations we're going to have. We did have Mueller in, and I want folks to tune in this Wednesday coming up because we have the Honorable Judge Maria Vasquez Doles, who's the very first New York State Supreme Court judge in the Ninth Judicial District. She's history making, and it's going to be an honor to have her. And so, what we're basically trying to do is um, there was a void. There was a void in the community with Latino leaders and empowering Latinos and bringing some of the good stuff and some of the services and things like that with the Latino community. And I thank you. I thank brother to brother. I thank Yonkers Voice for promoting it, and even Brian Hurrah, who's a pain in the ass, for promoting it and wishing us well. And hopefully it'll go well. And I thank you.
Now,
wait, happy Father's Day.
Lorraine is the one that called you a pain in the ass, even though I agree. But Lorraine is the one that called you.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get hashtagged a million times.
Right. No. Brian's good people. He's just very passionate about his stuff, and we don't always see eye to eye. But he has his own way of doing things, and power to him. So
love is love.
Love is love. He promotes Black Westchester a lot of the times, and shout out to all the people who hold us down on that level. So, secondly, happy Father's Day.
Yes.
To all the fathers out there, all the fathers, the stepfathers, grandfathers, all the men, especially Black and brown men that are raising someone else's children. And raising them like they're their own, giving them that love. And that is very important to our community. You only hear about the negative aspects that African Americans and Latinos are not, especially African Americans, mostly they're not involved in their households. And they do these studies of these one-parent households, but they don't take into consideration there are a lot of parents that are not together, and yes, the child may live at the mother's house, but the father is very active in the child's life. So but in stats they show that as a one parent household, just a single mother household, which is the case, but does not count for the father who is involved in that situation, and that they don't include that in the statistics. I wanted to. I took. I was on vacation. I took some time off. I don't think I ever came fully back from vacation. I think I'm still not all the way there. I was trying to get the paper out. I pushed it back. It took a couple of different design ideas, and it will be out Wednesday. One of the things we're celebrating is fatherhood, especially Black fatherhood. We ran a piece in for June 2017, 2 months before the first newspaper came out, and on the website was where the readers actually shared their memories and what they wanted to say about their fathers. And since that never made the paper, I decided to make that part of the cover story in the centerfold. Kenneth Chamberlain, Brenda Crump. Of course, I said my piece. You had Dr. Tahira Chase and Greenberg. You had a couple of other people. My cousin Michelle Harris, who you know as Panama Shell, and a few other people. My cousin David Moffitt in Atlanta, Peter Robinson, and I think that was all that I was actually able to fit in. But so I wanted to celebrate Black fatherhood, and this next part of the conversation, I know Bob's there, but his camera's not on. I definitely wanted to include him in this conversation and get his feedback. He just got out. He's going in and out. When he comes back, I wanted to discuss the whole Juneteenth situation. I'm going to wait for Bob to come. As you know, that Juneteenth is now an official federal holiday I'm sure you've heard from everyone now because the story has been told all weekend. The Emancipation Proclamation that was supposedly the document that freed the slaves. A lot of the slave owners either
Never
pushed
told him.
either pushed back and bucked against it and refused to honor it. Several of other slave owners wanted to get at least one or two more crops out of the slaves before releasing them. So whatever the case, and then there's all these stories that um, the people that were traveling. We had no social media then, so they were traveling by horse to Galveston, Texas, to announce it. And supposedly the person who was traveling got shot on the way. There's all these stories. The bottom line is, it was another 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, June 19th, 1865, I believe is the year when they finally got the word that they were free. And it is officially the African American Independence Day because African Americans were not free on what the 4th of July, July 4th, 1776. African Americans were still slaves for another almost 90 something years, almost 100 years afterwards. So, a lot of people, a lot of African Americans do not celebrate the 4th of July as Independence Day because it was not our Independence Day. Our Independence Day was actually June 19th, 1865, and it's called Juneteenth. It's a celebration. African Americans celebrate the end of slavery. So I don't know. I don't know when Bob's coming back on, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about it, while it is a victory, and it is great, it's the 11th federal holiday, the first federal holiday since Martin Luther King in 1983. Um, but as with Martin Luther King, the states didn't all adopt that holiday to make it a holiday. And Arizona was the last holdout for a long time. And it took the NFL refusing to play the Super Bowl in Arizona for Arizona to get it and officially make it a state holiday. There are some states who have already adopted the holiday. I know Maine, I know there's some other states, but there are several states that have not yet.
New
Um,
York was one that did, right?
I believe so. I have to look up the states to find out who did and who didn't. But my point is, when we have stuff on the table like this went through the Senate and unanimously passed the Senate. But things that are on the table are the minimum wage being put up to $15 an hour, the a tax hike on the rich. You have people like Jeff Bezos, who is the owner of Amazon, who allegedly paid no taxes in the last few years. You have people like Bill Gates, who have announced that their secretaries pay more taxes than they do. And a lot of the progressives want to add all these services for the black and brown community, for poor communities, and everybody keeps saying, "Where's the money going to come from to pay for it?" If the richest 5% of the people paid even 2, 3, 4, 5% more taxes than they're paying now, which is not even paying their fair share, because the more you make, the more taxes come out. But they got elected officials to pass these laws, and they get all these tax breaks, and they're billionaires, and they don't pay their fair share of the taxes. So when we have all these things going through, it's like making Juneteenth the national federal holiday is like the lesser of all these things. They do these things throughout the country, the history of this country, to get all black people to celebrate all these things.
Symbolic.
It's
Just
just,
symbolic,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Symbolism without substance. And what I'm telling all black and brown people, all the people, progressives, do not, while this is worthy of a celebration, Do not drop the ball. Do not stop fighting for criminal justice reform. Do not stop fighting for the minimum wage going up. Do not stop fighting for reparations and for all the things that are being fought for in this country. Do not stop fighting, making Juneteenth a national holiday when you have the Republicans trying to take away the voting rights that were given to us in the 60s and pass all kinds of voter suppression laws in their states to make it harder for Black and brown people to vote. We have to look at the contents of what's going on. And I think that is very important. I don't want to say Juneteenth being a holiday is not important. It's very important. But it is not the end of the battle. I'm not sure who that is. They say thank you for breaking it down, AJ. But it's not the end of the. We have a lot more to fight for, and see. Sometimes we'll get these things and we'll all celebrate, and then we forget about what we were fighting for. And there are a lot more important things. I don't know whether there'll ever be true reparations in this country for American descendants of slavery, because that would have to also admit that this country was wrong. They would have to admit that they did something wrong to do that, and I don't think this country is willing to admit that. A lot of people feel that has nothing to do with us. We don't own any slaves, but a lot of white people don't understand that they benefited from slavery. They benefited from if generations of your family built fortunes on the back of free labor of slaves, and that wealth, that generational wealth was passed down from generation to generation. You've benefited from slavery. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation, and it was promises of 40 acres and a mule. And we're not talking about Spike Lee's production company. There was promises of 40 acres and a mule. And what a lot of white people don't understand, so while there was generational wealth passed down from white families from generation to generation, Black people were just, okay, you're free now. And they were given nothing to start with, no resources. And the best example of this that I've ever heard, I want to say this again, is like playing the game of Monopoly. Everybody has played the game of Monopoly once. In the beginning of the game, you get $1,500. Everybody gets $1,500 to start off. You go around the track, you buy property, they try to gain all this other stuff. So I was watching, I forgot, I think it was a pastor called Frederick Price, a pastor my father used to watch. And he said over the holiday, this was a couple of years ago, over the holiday, he decided to play Monopoly with his family. So he decided to do an experiment and not take the $1,500 that everybody else in the game was given. And he said he was able to go around the board once or twice, wasn't able to buy any property, and then all of a sudden he was out of the game. That basically describes how slaves, when they were released, starting out without their $1,500, starting out without their 40 acres and a mule, starting out with nothing, while white families were passing down generational wealth that they made on the backs of free labor of slaves. And this is what the idea of reparations is. Now, I don't think every Black person, every American descendant of slavery should be given a check for several millions of dollars. I don't think that would be a good idea. I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle that. But I think there's a lot of ways that can be paid. Speaking from a point of a Black business owner, where small Black businesses maybe are there's no taxes for them for X amount of years, or African Americans are able, American descendants of slavery are able to attend state and county colleges for free, the 2-year college for free, to give them a leg up. You understand what I'm saying? There's different ways that people will argue what's the best way to do this. Private chat. Okay. Bob is with us, but his signal is weak. So I really wanted to hear his take on this. Wade Hardy said, "So true. The struggle for our community continues." That is absolutely true. I don't know how many people are watching right now, but I would like to hear in either in the comment section or something. What do you think about this whole thing of the passage of Juneteenth? Of you know, while we're fighting for reparations, for minimum wage being at least $15 an hour, fighting for um,
Gun laws.
gun laws, criminal justice reform, and fighting for the rich to pay a bigger
Their fair
percentage of
share.
taxes, even if it doesn't go up to what their fair share is. If you just raised 5% on the top 5% of the richest people, you will have billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars of tax to be used for
Wow.
these programs.
Wow.
I don't remember the numbers, so don't quote me. I know it would be at least billions, because they're not paying any taxes, and they're not paying at your job. When you make such X amount, you're in a tax bracket. When you work overtime and you make more money, you go to a higher tax bracket and you're taxed more. You work more overtime, you're in a higher tax bracket and you're taxed more. So that's how it's supposed to go. The more you make, the more taxes come out.
Yeah.
You have someone like Bill Gates, who's a billionaire. His secretary, who I doubt makes $100,000, pays more in taxes than he does. That's how these new laws are structured. So the richest of the rich have all these tax breaks. Like, what do you need tax breaks for? You know what I mean? And then they're complaining about passing things like the minimum wage being $15. I lived in Atlanta. Two of the biggest employers of Atlanta were like McDonald's and Walmart. Not the biggest, but big employers of. Do you know most people that were there needed some sort of assistance, Section 8 or food stamps or both? Because
Wow.
they're not being paid. And I'm talking about up to the managers. I'm not talking about just the person flipping the fries and flipping the burgers and working the fry station. I'm talking about some of the managers I knew when I worked there were also getting food stamps or also had Section 8 vouchers.
Yep. They have it today.
And Walmart is another one where it's a big big employment of mostly a lot of African Americans, a lot of Latinos, a lot of poor people, for lack of a better word, who are not being paid a living wage. $15 an hour is not even a living wage. When they made this whole thing about the minimum wage, you can't have a minimum wage that does not go up every year when inflation goes up every year. So for years and decades, this thing never went up, but inflation goes up every year. So how do you expect the people to make it if the minimum wage doesn't go up? If the minimum wage went up every year since it gets started, the minimum wage would be over 20, almost $30 an hour right now. You know, people are fighting, oh, minimum wage is supposed to just give you a start. No, there are adults that have to have these jobs because they may not have the training to do other things. You don't have job training programs to help people up to acclimate them to the new technology and stuff like that. So they don't know these things. So they have these, and they have one or two or three of these minimum wage jobs, and they're barely making it. Rent goes up every year, inflation goes up every year, everything goes up but your salary.
No cost of living increase.
Right, and that's the problem. And you might see me sweat a little bit for the noise. I turned my air conditioner off, and they're partying outside my house. So There's a lot of music playing outside, so my windows are closed, so you may see me sweat a little bit. Dr. Bob, give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come on the screen. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come on the screen. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come on the screen, Dr. Bob. I know you can hear me. Wait for you to
He
give me.
said he said yes.
You can see him?
Oh wait, I can't even see me now.
Oh, I was like, how do you see him? Oh, he said yes in the private chat. Okay. So, Bob, I don't know how much you heard, but I will start over again. I was dealing with the passage of the Juneteenth legislation to make it a federal holiday,
Right.
which is a positive step.
Mm-hmm.
But this country, the history of this country, is to throw trinkets like that at us when we're fighting for reparations, we're fighting for minimum wage to go to at least $15, we're fighting for criminal justice reform. All these things we're fighting for that the Senate will not approve, but they unanimously passed this. And sometimes, while this is a good thing, sometimes these situations are to pacify us. We're celebrating this victory and we take our eyes off the ball of the other things that we're fighting. And I wanted to get your take on some of that.
Yeah. So, firstly, let me say that so far as I know, as someone who's been actively engaged with our community, actually passing a Juneteenth national legislation bill was on nobody's agenda except for the congresspersons who shepherded it through.
Sheila Lee, I think her name was.
Sheila Jackson Lee, yeah.
Sheila Jackson Lee, yeah.
So, I mean, I just say that because I do want to put things in perspective. In a way, this was an unexpected victory for many of us. And I had absolutely no idea that this piece of legislation was being taken up in Congress until maybe Thursday last week, pretty much when it was announced and a done deal. So I want to say that because number two, I think that since very few of us were actually advocating for this bill, I'm showing my books and stuff. Since none of us were actually advocating for it, AJ, I think we should treat it as a pleasant surprise, welcome surprise, but it should not deter us from the real agenda. I think that I know each of us has from the discussions that we have behind the scenes. There are more important issues that we have been devoting our energy to and trying to exhort people to get out there and fight for. So that's the second point I'll make. Third point, symbolic victories need not lead us to drop demands for material victories. I mean, we can't actually chew gum and walk at the same time. And you know what? I'm not going to skip a beat in any of the things that I am trying to do. I'm trying to muster my energy when I can. So, and I hope everyone else remains vigilant. Well, finally, let me say this. I do think that we should not understate the significance of this development, if only at the symbolic level. Right now, we here in the United States are actually engaged in a metaphysical struggle over the identity of the nation. And no people should be more appreciative than African Americans, Native Americans, and all the other groups who were shut out symbolically from the United States, defined as being outside of the American political community and therefore not deserving of rights than those of us who tend to support this program, right? It would not have been possible for many of the worst ravages to have been committed against us if we had been recognized at the symbolic level as members of the community. This extends even to the battle that we're having over the question of Puerto Rico's place within the United States and whether it will be finally admitted as a full nation with full representational rights within Congress, whether it shall remain essentially a de facto colony of the United States, or whether it's going to be some sort of in-between status like a Commonwealth that is leaving many people feeling dissatisfied. But the victory is halfway won when there's widespread recognition, majority recognition that at least we are legitimate members of the community, and our demands for justice can't merely be dismissed as those of foreigners.
And I do want to say, so yeah, we have things on the table. Like, we still have not got the lynching legislation from what's my man in Mississippi that got dragged by the truck.
Eric Byrd.
No. Was it him? I forget who, but we can't get the anti-lynching legislation passed. We can't get the George Floyd legislation passed. We can't get the minimum wage passed. They can't agree on whatever, some form of reparations. We all have a different point of view of what that should look like. But there's so many other things that were on the table that have been fought for the last few years that this is just, like I said, while it is a victory, Wade Hardy said passing Juneteenth as a holiday is a positive step. And we must continue to fight for fairness. Our communities are struggling to strive due to systematic processes that weaken our infrastructure, families, labor, and learning opportunities, education, housing, and overall lifestyle. I agree. And I don't want anyone to take this as just one of those things. Oh, we won, we got a victory, we got a holiday, and we stopped fighting for all the other things. I was watching some show and it was funny. Black people were celebrating, and then they found out, wait, white people get that day off too? So then they was happy. It was like, it was like a little comedy skit. I forgot what I was watching it on, but they was all happy until they found out, yeah, white people get that day off too. It's a holiday.
Well, listen, I mean, and we're having a discussion right now about the purported role of critical race theory in academic learning, and there is no lesson more important for the American people to learn than that, in fact, slavery was real, and it was through tremendous effort that emancipation was eventually won, right? This is the first national holiday that forces the United States to confront the fact that indeed it was a slave nation for several hundred years prior to, becoming the U.S. of A. And that there has been a division within the white community over the question of Black freedom, and the backstory to Juneteenth illustrates this quite clearly. The same motherfuckers who are currently attempting to deny us of our voting rights and curtail the very tenuous voting rights we have. The same motherfuckers who wanted to prevent Juneteenth from becoming a national holiday. They are the same motherfuckers that fomented the insurrection on January 6th. And they are the same white supremacists, and I'll skip the curse word, who have fought tooth and nail for the enslavement of African Americans even after emancipation. So there is a thread of continuity that connects opposition to Juneteenth, support for the rollback of Black voting rights, Latino voting rights, and, a resentment that Black people are even free today. The reality is that the most conservative sectors of the Republican Party long for a return to the days of yesteryear.
Yeah.
And bemoan that they lost the Civil War in the first place and have yet to get over it. So this is a way of smacking them symbolically. It's a symbolic smack.
I told you there are places in Georgia, when I lived there, that recreate the battles of the Civil War. And the announcer starts out by saying, the North thinks they won. That's how they start off. The announcer on the mic starts off talking about how the North believes they won. They're not even acknowledging now in 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016, they wasn't even acknowledging that they lost the war still.
Right.
And they celebrate the reenactment of the battles every year. There's one place called Kennesaw, used to be called Big Shanty. They recreate the Battle of Big Shanty every year.
Right, and in many respects, those Confederate reenactors are the same people who opposed the removal of statues in honor of traitorous Confederate soldiers who, by any stretch of the imagination, deserve no place of honor in the American national memory, right? And so, I mean, I think we have to keep all of this in mind, AJ and Lorraine, and I think we know, and we just need to reinforce the message that, you know, the struggle is going to continue. We were having a discussion the other night, AJ, specifically about the likelihood that this would have on reparations, and which is a theme that I picked up on with my aunt and several other people. And I said, when me and my aunt were discussing, I don't think the political climate for reparations will be ripe for another 25 years.
Wow.
I think we really do ourselves a tremendous disservice if we do not acknowledge how deeply entrenched racism is within the American political and economic order, and that to bring about a more racially equitable society necessarily means that white folks are going to have to give something up. There'll have to be a scaling back of some privilege. And actually, the funny thing is mainly reparations is a rich white folks issue. You need to just tax some rich white, well, not just rich white people, but rich people.
I mean, we talked about that, about them paying I was talking about that earlier, about when I work a job, I get taxed at a certain level. When I work overtime, sometimes I get taxed at a higher level. When you work past a certain amount of hours overtime, you get taxed at a higher level. The system is set up for the more you make, the more taxes you pay. But we've had a lot of rich people support these candidates, and they gave these rich people all these tax breaks, and they're not paying nowhere near their fair share. I'm just saying, if they paid a little bit more, we could pay for all of this stuff. We're not even talking about paying their fair share. They paid an additional 5%. They said Jeff Bezos didn't pay any taxes. I don't know if that's true or not, but they say he didn't pay any taxes the last few years. One of the richest people in this country. There's a problem with that.
Right, and I'm sure Lorraine heard the story too, as did all of our listeners, the ProPublica investigative report that put hands on the returns of several of America's wealthiest individuals. Jeff Bezos, I think also Warren Buffett was one, Elon Musk, and in all instances, and others, and I think it was like about the richest 200 Americans in the nation, and in all instances, their net tax bill in many cases was zero. Once you took an amount that they paid plus any kind of tax breaks that they received, largely through sort of capital gains, write-offs, and all these kind of esoteric tax rules, they paid a net tax of nothing, which you and I don't pay nothing for tax. Right? Our effective tax rate these are probably like about a third. So, I mean, that's what we need to do. And I want to be clear. That should be a tax on wealthy persons, a progressive tax on wealthy persons, irrespective of racial color. I did not mean that seriously, and I don't want to.
I wanted to shout out, if people, because we share the show on different pages, and sometimes if I don't have the page pulled up that they're sharing, when they leave comments, it just says Facebook user. So that first comment was by Sister Nkechi. They used to work in the law department in Mount Vernon City Hall, so I wanted to shout her out. And she said earlier, thank you for breaking it down, but I didn't know who said it. So when I pulled up the People with Your Politics page on my other phone, I can see that she was the one that made that comment. So I wanted to say that. I'd like to hear from some of those who are listening right now. If you like the conversation that you're hearing, please share this with others. Please share this on your page. We would like to hear from all of you. For anybody who's just tuning in for the first time, this is Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show. This is episode 304. We're supposed to have our guest later on, County Legislator Tyrae Woodson, but we're right now just talking about some of the issues going on right now. We were dealing with Father's Day. We were dealing with the Father's Day. We were congratulating Lorraine on the new show. We were talking about all the new programming that's coming up lately. We were thanking them for that, and also. Okay. I am being pulled away from the table real quick. I need Bob to continue talking.
All right. Well, I wanted to say, Lorraine, since this is my first time getting to see you in person or face to face, since you started the new show, I wanted to extend you and your brother congratulations.
Thank you.
I understand this is an historic return.
Yes.
For Latino programming at WVOX, and I think it represents a real advance. Even though, on this show, we try to speak to the issues that are of importance to our Latino brothers and sisters, we understand that sometimes they may exceed the boundaries of this conversation. And so, we know that they are being orchestrated through a wonderful conversation with you and your brother at the helm. So we look forward to that.
Like I was telling AJ, it's a real void in the Latino community. We have so much excellence in our community that we don't even know about. And we need to have these conversations just like you guys are having right now, which by the way is a very interesting. I'm really glad I'm here to listen to it, because I can now have this conversation with my sisters over here that I know, Keisha Skipper and them. I can have these with Tanya Connor and be able to understand a little bit more. And that's kind of like what I want to do with the Latino community too. We're not monolithic. There's all different kinds of Latinos. There's all different cultures in the Latino community. And hopefully we'll be able to highlight some of the leaders and some of the wonderful things that are happening. Not just, negativity. There's too much negativity going on, and that's why we haven't gotten anywhere. But there are a lot of gems out there, and that's what we want to highlight throughout the county.
You're getting congratulations. First off, that was Tammy to stop by, and she said to tell Bob Happy Father's Day. And congratulations Lorraine on his show.
Thank you.
DJ Cool Cut said Happy Father's Day and said, yes, Lorraine, congratulations. And I'm not sure, again.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, if you're watching on another page other than my page, sometimes it just says Facebook user. Someone else said, good luck, Lorraine. I'm not sure who that is.
Thank you.
But it brings me to another conversation that's worth having. And I'm glad that you brought what you said, what y'all just said. So we had this new show that's on HBO Max called In the Heights with Lin Manuel, the dude that did what's his name? The dude that did Hamilton.
Mariana.
Yeah. So this is a dude who made the founding fathers black. Like, he should get a pass on everything. Like, you know what I'm saying? But so he made this great show called In the Heights about telling his story in Washington. Telling his story in Washington Heights. And I've been reading about. I'm getting tired of all this extra cancel culture. There's a lot of people who have been complaining that he didn't have enough darker Afro Latinos in there, and they only had light-skinned Latino people in there, and it wasn't a full representation of all of Washington Heights. Like Lorraine just said, and like Black Westchester always says, it was Caitlin Gleason that said, good luck, Lorraine. Like we just said, Black Westchester, the Black experience is too diverse for us to ever be able to fully capture everything. We are not the total voice for all Black people. And like your show, while it will cover and be just as important to the Latino community as this entity has been to the Black community, there's no way you will be able to speak for all Latinos. So I just want your take on the attack that he's receiving right now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, if you've been reading up on it, but he's been getting so attacked because he didn't have enough darker representation of Latinos in the movie. And I think he did a great movie. It was a great movie about the Latino experience in Washington Heights. And again, you can't complain about this. This is the guy who made the Founding Fathers Black in Hamilton. Like, you know, like it don't get no more diverse than that. Like, that was unheard of. So, you know, I just want your thoughts on all these people attacking him and this whole extra cancel culture we got about complaining about everything. Lorraine.
Me?
Yes,
well,
Lorraine.
You know what? I'm not going to have this conversation with you, AJ, because I need to have it with my people.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you this. There were some people of color in this movie. And it's not a series, it's a movie. And it did reflect the colors of the time that they were doing it. And it does reflect the colors that we have right now. So I don't think that nobody was trying to, how do I say this? I don't think that they were trying, he purposely avoided putting African Americans in there, people of color. I think that he had a theme and he went with that. And I think it's a shame that he's being attacked because let him have his thing. Let him have his thing. I mean, not everything has to be so damn serious. Like, leave the shit alone, you know? But I know there's some more understanding and there's some deeper conversations that I have to have. And I'm going to have them. And when I have them, I'm going to come back and we'll have that discussion. But right now, I'm not in a place where I can have them.
Right. But
I mean, that's being real.
I was upset that he felt the need to apologize.
Everyone was attacking.
I feel he has no reason to apologize. And it wasn't even like it was African American. It was like Afro Latinos who were darker Latinos who said they only had light skinned Latinos in there that look almost white. That's who was complaining. And it's like, yo, no one movie or no one entity is going to cover the whole experience.
They had a Dominican play a Puerto Rican. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
and I lived in Washington Heights for 6 to 8 months. So I think he did an excellent job. I've hung out in Washington Heights. I used to stay in Harlem, and I stayed in Washington Heights temporarily too. And I think he did a very great job in a movie about the area. I mean,
it was about Latinos too, and like, you know what, Black Panther, all black. You say I'm black, right? I'm a Latina, right? You say I'm black.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't there somebody representing me there? You know what I'm saying? Like leave it alone. I'm just too through with that.
That would be the equivalent of light-skinned black saying there was no light skin.
Yeah.
It was in Africa. There are very few light-skinned blacks in Africa. They're dark-skinned. The sun, they're in the sun. There are a lot of.
It reflects the people, right? That's what I'm saying. It reflected the era that he was doing at that time.
Right. And I want to say publicly, I've said it to him on Twitter, and I've gone after some of the people that have attacked him. He has nothing to apologize for. And I'm tired of this extra cancel culture that, you know, everybody has to be all inclusive about everything. He did a great movie about the neighborhood he knew, and it was great. Representation. Now,
we had one movie. We had one thing.
Right.
That's what we had, man.
Right.
Give it to us.
Right. And let's celebrate the movie, and the opening of more Latino voices and productions and producers telling more. We used to have that when we had Spike Lee. They was mad at Spike Lee. It was only telling one side of a story. Wasn't telling. We didn't have no black producers, no black directors. Now we have more, and we have more black stories now. I can tell you, he's gonna make it up to all those that are angry. He's gonna do so. Look, he did it with Hamilton. He's gonna continue to do it. Right. No, and he said that, and he said he will learn from the process. Yeah. But he has apologized, no less than 8 or 10 times. And I'm upset that he felt the need to have to apologize. I feel he has nothing to apologize for.
Me too.
I stand with him and the great production that was. And that was one. And there will be more to follow. And we need to celebrate him, celebrating that area of Washington Heights. It had various, you had Dominican, you had the Puerto Rican, you had all different aspects of it. It wasn't just one group of people. It was a lot of different countries represented in that. And that's what Washington Heights is. And, I just wanted to, because we were talking about, diversity and all that, and that's been one of my pet peeves going on this week. Yes, I would love to have him on the show. Anybody?
That would be great if we could make it happen.
That would be, somebody said you should have him on the show. I would love to have him on the show. I've been backing him up on Twitter, and I'm going to continue backing him up and reaching out to him, and hopefully maybe one day we can have him on the show. But, I just want to speak, I see the same problem with Black people. We complain that there's not enough dark-skinned people in the movie. There's not enough light-skinned people. This person only told part of a story, and I'm going to keep it real. Of all the Black movies, I can't relate to Boys in the Hood. I didn't grow up that way, but that was a great movie. Menace to Society was a great movie that needed to be told, but I didn't live that. You understand what I'm saying? So I didn't live that aspect, but it was a great movie. Precious was a great movie. I can't relate to that, but that was a great story that needed to be told. We have a lot of people now telling a lot of different stories, and we can't hold one producer to cover everything. The same way you can't hold Black Westchester, who is not Black enough for some people and is too Black for others, which is crazy. And you're going to get that too. You're going to get that. You're going to get some Latino people that are going to complain that you're not covering the real issues to them. That whatever is the issue to them, you're not. You talk about all this other stuff, but you're not talking about the issue that is important to them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to those people, if we're not covering, Black Westchester specifically was started because there was a lot of things that were not being covered. We're covering a lot of those things, and we implore and encourage someone else who thinks there's another area of African-American life that is not being covered to start their own thing and cover that. There's room for all of us, and we should celebrate each other and empower each other and stop. And that's why I started off the show by saying, I support your show and Brother John's show and the latest show and all the new programming that's coming up. We have to support. If we empower each other, then we're all individually so much stronger. You understand what I'm saying? But we fight each other. Oh. Like some people would be mad. Oh, Lorraine got her own show now. Oh, she leaving us? No, I'm happy for you. I am delighted that y'all are representing, and especially on WVOX. I'm looking forward to the storyline, and I'm definitely looking forward to the interaction with you and your brother, because they'll definitely have two different lenses, and that's going to make for great radio. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Sabrina Powell, shout out to Sabrina Powell. She said Happy Father's Day. Someone said the tax code impact wage earners differently than it does business owners. We need to promote more entrepreneurship, business owners, and estate planning in our community. Let our youth know that they have options. I do agree. But I stand by that the rich need to pay more of their share of the taxes. I definitely stand by that. Stephanie Swan said, Black Westchester, people before politics is her nourishment for knowledge. Thank you for those kind words.
She's a sweetheart. I love her.
I appreciate that. Yeah, but we have to have these conversations. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like some of these conversations are not comfortable, and some people don't want to talk about this, but these are real things going on. And, we have to address them. And I look forward to, like I said, all the other new media. If we do our job, then we should be encouraging a new generation of truth speakers. We are not supposed to be the total official voice of all African Americans everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We did what we did, and we're doing what we're doing, and hopefully we'll encourage other people, like Spike Lee encouraged John Singleton and Malcolm Lee and other producers, directors who started putting out different programming. We hope to inspire others who will come up and tell their stories and speak. I would like to really see a show with are young, the millennials. We need a definitely an African American show of millennials talking about the issues from their point of view, from their lens. We desperately need that. I invite anyone who wants to come on this show to talk about that, but we need them to come up with their own show or their own even media outlet, their own paper or magazine or something, where they're writing for the millennials by the millennials. You know what I'm saying? And they're representing, because we and the elected officials need to see that, because we Brenda Crump, a friend of the show, she always says we have to stop talking about the youth, about what they need and services for the youth, without including the youth in the conversation.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And plus, it's good to have variety too. But yes, the youth should be involved. We should bring some youth to the show.
Yeah, we brought a lot, and I want to bring more. And we've had people that have been with us, and they've gone on to do their own things. Some people like what they're doing, and some people don't. Atif started out with us, and he decided to do his own thing. And everyone doesn't see eye to eye with what he's doing, but he's trying. He puts his name on it, and he's doing his own thing. Malcolm Clark started with us, and he's furthered his situation in politics right now. He used to write a column called "Views from the Ville." It was mostly Mount Vernon centered, but it was issues from a millennial point of view. And he wrote some powerful articles. And we've had some Dennis Richmond and Yonkers write some stuff from that age group as well. Yeah. And we welcome more. But I definitely want to empower that next generation of truth speakers to start their own thing as well, and anything we could do to help encourage them and launch them and set them off and give them a platform so they can get it out there. That's what we need. We need a lot more of that. Bob, so what else is going on in the news? I know there's so much going on in the news that we have not discussed lately. What else?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys touched upon the announcement by District Attorney Mimi Rocha.
No, not yet. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Which is a very the announcement that a detective from New Rochelle has been indicted on charges of excessive use of force, and he will have to appear before a court to answer charges. I know that at least since I know that you posted an article, AJ, Lorraine, you probably shared the articles as well, and that got me into a bit of an exchange with supporters of Detective, I believe Vaccaro is his name.
Vaccaro, yeah.
Including representatives from the New Rochelle and Mount Vernon PBA, who maintain that somehow it was unfair for Detective Vaccaro to be brought up on charges of excessive use of force. I don't know, because he was in civilian clothes and decided to intervene during off duty. I applaud District Attorney Rocha's decision. I want to remind listeners, especially those who are overly critical of the district attorney's decision, that a decision to charge someone is not a finding of guilt, and that Detective Vaccaro will have the right to appear before have a trial before a jury of his peers, just like anyone else. There is no reason. I want to be very clear about this, and I think I speak for all the listeners, that AJ and Lorraine, Damon, who's not here, and all the listeners. Communities of color who have suffered disproportionately from the excesses of America's police regime will not consent to allowing officers to use force beyond what is necessary. Once a perpetrator of a crime is subdued, the officer has a legal obligation to immediately restrain from using force. And the big problem here in the United States is that too many officers don't seem to get that message. I was having an exchange and someone said to me, well, you don't know what it's like to be a police officer, and once you get into a physical confrontation. Needless to say, y'all are my friends, so you know a little bit about my backdrop. And although I'm hardly Mount Vernon's #1 thug, you're not gonna see me out here, holding court on the streets. I think everyone knows that I've been in many a fight in far worse situations. The important thing is that we know if we want to keep that violence at a minimum and stop it from escalating, at a certain point, we have to exercise self-restraint. And the claim that, you know what, you don't know what it's like, and if you're in that situation, you want to do, and it reminded me of something. It's a way of giving wrongdoers a pass for their moral transgressions. It would be like this. The idea that once an officer gets into some sort of physical altercation, they just can't stop themselves. That's what's really being alleged here. I am a teacher. It would be like me. I am a teacher. I'm a straight male teacher. I hope I always conduct myself like a gentleman and a scholar, but I definitely have an eye for curvaceous ladies. When I go into my classroom, I have an obligation. Yeah. Although I'm a full red-blooded male, I have an obligation to act in accordance with the rules of the institution. And I cannot go before the sexual harassment officer and say there's a sexual harassment officer or anyone else. Oh, but you don't know what it's like to work in a room full of voluptuous young women.
And damn, she had a fat ass. I mean, what was I supposed to do? Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I couldn't help myself. That would not be acceptable. It shouldn't be. Any male teacher who abuses their authority by hitting on females and sexually harassing them deserves to have their conduct reviewed and punished if they are found guilty. So too, two cops who
it's funny. I had a professor in college touch me inappropriately, and a couple of other women, and it was Mercy College, the extension center over here in Ashburn. But instead of they brought in all these sexual harassment seminars, and they changed a couple of things, but instead of punishing him, they transferred him to the main campus.
I remember you telling us about that.
Priests, I'm sorry.
You shared it with us maybe about...
It was on a Facebook post.
Yeah, no, and you told us about it, Lorraine, actually, in one of the shows. A couple of, I forgot, what was the guy? Was he an ex-football player or something?
Ex-NFL player, yeah. And his wife was a doctor, prominent in the main campus.
Right, and you know what? It really undermines trust. That's the important thing. I have reached a level of maturity where the growth of my female students is my overriding priority. That's how I'm going to make a lasting contribution, right? And so I realize, maybe in a way, I'm not going to say that I didn't, but when I was a younger man, that anything I do to undermine students' trust in professors has lasting implications beyond my class. That means they may find it difficult to have a constructive, fruitful relationship with other male professors who, in fact, must serve as mentors. See, that's the thing. One of our roles is to be mentors of people. So you can't have that concept. But more importantly, we do not, back to my original point, we do not excuse male professors from hitting on female professors as another instance of boys or just being boys, nor should we excuse police officers from using excessive force on the grounds that that's just what guys do.
Did he get promoted? Did he get promoted after that?
No. I wanna touch upon this from a different aspect. So I wanna applaud Mimi Rocha, the district attorney, because this is what she ran on that she would do. And this is the one reason when she was running, she refused to take money from PBA, from any PBA, because she may be challenged with having to prosecute one of their members, unlike her predecessor. So she wouldn't do that. So this individual, so he was a 16-year veteran of New Rochelle. He's a detective of New Rochelle Police Department, Michael Vaccaro, Vaccaro. He's charged with attempted assault in the third degree. While he was off duty, he witnessed a domestic dispute involving a Mount Vernon man and his mother. Uniformed New Rochelle police officers subsequently responded, and while they were taking the man in custody, Vaccaro physically inserted himself into the arrest, striking the man multiple times with his fist, attempting to kick him, and pressing his face against the pavement. Now, the detective is a white man. The individual was black. The several PBA presidents have attacked Mimi Roca, and including the New Rochelle Police PBA president Christopher Greco. He basically said Officer Vaccaro and others were required to use reasonable, necessary, and justified force to bring the suspect. New Rochelle PBA has continually indicated that we do our part, blah, 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 blah. The Westchester District Attorney has sent a clear and extreme risky message to all law enforcement of Westchester County that the DA will personally decide what is acceptable and what is not, rather than determine what is lawful and what is not. The arrest of Officer Vaccaro, along with anti-police legislation, is rhetoric only serves to inspire criminals, weakening law enforcement, and leaves society in danger. We are at a time where the district attorney is hunting cops while leaving many true crime victims searching for justice. That's just a portion of what she wrote. The Mount Vernon PBA, he wrote this on his Facebook page. Mount Vernon PBA president that we had on the show recently, Mastro, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. He said, call him Mastro. He said, absolute disgrace. This DA is destroying police departments. Getting charged with a crime for doing their job is completely, totally sickening. She should strap on a vest and get in the car and walk a mile in our shoes before she passes judgments on good cops doing what we're supposed to be doing. Now, the White Plains PBA, I'm not even going to read theirs. They have also released a statement, and I, under good authority, that Keith Olsten got smoke coming out of his ears in Yonkers, and he is about to put his statement out in a couple of days. And I want to speak to all of the PBA presidents and all of the people that are attacking Mimi Roca. The first thing to consider before y'all come out of your anti-police rhetoric and all this other stuff is the department, the New Rochelle Police Department, saw something wrong with this. They suspended him for 30 days, and they handed this evidence over to the DA. Mimi Roca wasn't just going through Facebook and going, hey, that's a good guy, let me go after him. She didn't even know about that person. New Rochelle, his police department is the one who said something was wrong, put him on suspension, and handed the information over to the district attorney. Now, the PBA presidents, that's a real punk smooth move, going after the district attorney. Why are you not going after the head of the New Rochelle Police Department who initially found something wrong with this? Why are you not talking about the head of the New Rochelle Police Department who suspended him? Why are you not talking about the head of the New Rochelle Police Department that handed this information over to the district attorney to consider a conviction? Why are you going after the district attorney? Because that's the easy way out. There should be justice for all. The law should apply to everybody. And she is not determining, what did it say? So I don't get caught for misquoting. She's risky mess that she will decide what is acceptable and what is not, rather than determine what is lawful and what is not. She took the evidence given to her by the New Rochelle Police Department and determined that it was a violation of policy, procedures, and training, and she then set forth charges. That is her job. That is what she was elected to do. Yo, you can't have it both ways. And it's time that we had a district attorney that had the testicular fortitude to go after bad cops, bad politicians, and anybody else who's breaking the law. There was no need for this off-duty cop to get involved in this situation. If it was like a Christopher Ridley thing where he came and he helped because there was no other cops, there were other cops, uniformed cops on the scene. He then attacked the guy while they had him kind of.
Yo, AJ, so let's keep it 100. Let's keep it a buck. Yo, on the streets, that shit is called bitch sucker shit. That's what that's called.
Right.
When you punch someone who is being restrained by someone else, you're a punk ass motherfucker. You don't get points from that. So, not only was the man acting illegally, he was acting immorally. You know, he is to be commended for stopping a crime. He is to be criticized the moment he decided to commit a crime himself. It is possible for an officer to be both a protector of the law and a violator of the law at one and the same time. And, you know, maybe y'all should figure that out, that, you know, that's not a very difficult concept to put one's head around. Yeah, and moreover, because there are a lot of people on Facebook lauding him as a hero. And in fact, no, he was not a hero. The moment he decided to beat up on someone who was being restrained by several officers, he went from being a hero to being a punk. Because that's what punk people do, actually. If you're a man, you're going to fight straight up hand in hand, or a woman. Lorraine, right? Straight up hand in hand. And that's it. But having everyone jump in and da-da-da-da, and you got a gun, you don't get no points for that.
And let me just say, the reason for bringing this up on the level that I'm bringing it up on, that was my message to the PBA. My message to the public, to the voters, to the residents. Everybody's calling for criminal justice reform. Everybody's calling for a district attorney who will prosecute bad cops. On the surface, it appears that's what we have. She is going to get backlash from all the PBA. A PBA president, that is their job, to represent their membership and to stand up for their membership. Pat Lynch does it the best and is the most sucker shit that comes out of his mouth. It's been a minute since we talked about Pat Lynch. Damon's not here, so I throw the Pat Lynch reference in there. But some of the shit that comes out of his mouth, it is their job to represent their leaders, their membership. But us as the residents who called for a district attorney who would convict bad cops, when she gets the heat, we all need to stand up and have her back now. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. If we don't, and another district attorney wins, you will never get another district attorney who will prosecute cops and be standing out on the ledge on his own. Yeah, the district attorney can hear you say all that, but when it comes time and the everything comes back, none of y'all are standing with that district attorney. There should be Noble, the National Association of Black Police Law. They wrote a statement. I understand that the Grand Guardian of Council are writing a statement in support of her. We need to, Brother John Morrison has wrote a strong support of her on his page. We need to support. We need to let them know that this is not tolerable. If this is what we asked for. And when you get what you ask for, you need to support the person who is stepping up to the plate, unlike her predecessors. And also, I want to applaud her for opening up the investigations and taking a new look on the death of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. and Danroy DJ Henry. Both of them are over a decade old. Now, she's going to get pushback from that because she's going to get heat from her predecessor, Janet DeFiore, who saw no wrongdoing, who didn't prosecute nothing. She's gonna catch heat from other district attorneys. She's gonna catch heat for these actions. We need to support her. And the way we came out and voted for her, the way we called for her to step up and we got her in place over Scarpino. Now the community better come out, and those call for criminal justice, you better speak up in her behalf now, or you will never have another district attorney step up to the plate again. Point blank.
I want to say something. I want to be clear. The reason I have framed my critique of Detective Vaccaro and challenging the morality of what he did is because too many people on Facebook, and I'm going to say, I'm assuming they're mostly white people, tend to heroize officers who engage in unlawful activity. You're trying to turn the man into a hero for breaking the law. He showed no moral courage whatsoever. He showed no courage whatsoever by going and pummeling on someone who was already restrained. And on top of that, he had a gun. You know, I would imagine, I wonder if he were, you know, in other circumstances, whether he would do that. That to me is not an act of heroism.
He has a gun. He has a bulletproof vest. He's the professional here. He has the training. He has all of that. He has all of that. He is the professional here. He is the one who's supposed to know how to act because he has been trained. He has been given the authority to literally take a life if it's necessary. You understand what I'm saying? He has been given this authority. And when you misuse your power, again, let me say, because he has been charged, you are in this country guilty as innocent until proven guilty. Unless you're black, then you're guilty until proven innocent. But he is innocent until proven guilty. The charges does not make him convicted, and he's not convicted of anything yet. We will have to see there, but I believe, though, she did her job. An investigation was warranted. Now, maybe nothing will come from the investigation. Maybe it will be in his favor, but an investigation was warranted. And if he is convicted and the evidence points that way, then all of y'all are going to have to accept that. The same way we have to accept on the other side, if the evidence show a certain way. And that it is what it is. It was cameras, there was all kinds of evidence handed in. The New Rochelle, and this is specifically. While you did not say this to me, you said this to people that you knew would get back to me. You said, "Did we see the footage?" No.
Who said that?
Keith Olsen. No, we did not see the footage. I don't need to see the footage. I have been covering Westchester for over 7 years. I've covered the New Rochelle Police Department for over 7 years. The New Rochelle Police Department protects their officers. You had a New Rochelle Police Department. New Rochelle saw something wrong and suspended this individual for 30 days and handed the evidence over to the district attorney. I don't need to see the footage. I know that department. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they don't do that on every cop. Right. That's not their go-to. So there was evidently enough, and then the district attorney reviewed it and saw enough to level charges and start a prosecution of this officer.
And Detective Vaccaro will have his day in court where he can present evidence to rebut the district attorney's claim that he engaged in the crime. And you want me to tell what? There is no guarantee that this man will be convicted at all.
No.
There's absolutely no guarantee. It will be a racially diverse jury, and you better believe some of the more conservative-minded folks who give reflex of support to the police are going to be on the jury. He'd probably be acquitted.
But I also want to say one more thing. So Damon and I talked about it when I posted the story, and I shared the link. For anybody who didn't see it, I shared it in the comment section. So this is from Damon, who has been in law enforcement for 31 years. Damon said the other thing you got to look at, when they gave him the suspension for 30 days, he could have went to arbitration and fought that. He did not. He accepted his suspension. He had to sign that paper and accept his suspension. He could have went to arbitration and fought that. But if he fought that, there was a case that he could have got worse than 30 days suspension. So obviously, this has to be taken in consideration as well. You understand what I'm saying? But the narrative that every PBA president is coming out with, I understand that y'all are in a club and y'all stick together, but your attack of the district attorney is unwarranted. And I have no respect for you when you don't have the same level of conversation against the head people in the New Rochelle Police Department who originally suspended him and turned the information over. Why is there's not one PBA president had anything to say about the head of the New Rochelle Police Department? None. Not one. Not one. But because Mimi Roker don't have a badge and is not, she's not a peace officer like you are, she's an easy target. But you're not going after the leadership of the New Rochelle Police Department. The ones who initially suspended this officer and saw a reason to hand over some evidence to the district attorney. Now, if the PBA president went after Mimi Roker, went after the police commissioner, the police chief of New Rochelle Police Department, I'd have a lot more respect for you because then you're keeping it 100 across the board. But you're picking the one that is not in your brotherhood to attack. You're not attacking the police commissioner of New Rochelle. You're not attacking the police chief. You're not attacking the person whoever made this decision, whatever leader, lieutenant, whoever made the decision to suspend him. You're not attacking that person. I've read nothing in anyone's statement saying anything about New Rochelle Police Department. And that's whack, as far as I'm concerned. Very unprofessional and came across as a good old boy comment. He will get a slap on the wrist and a fine.
I wanted to just read Stephanie Swan's summary of Detective Vaccaro's record. She posted it the other day, and I was really astonished because it's really revealing. Yes, and here it goes, and I'm going to read it. A 16-year veteran of the New Rochelle Police Department, Vaccaro has one of the worst disciplinary records in the history of the Neuro PD. Vaccaro has been the subject of 17 internal affairs investigations, resulting in 9 letters of reprimand, the loss of 15 leave days, a 10-day suspension, as well as an order to undergo retraining based on civilian complaint in 2020. Even if, I don't know if District Attorney Roker was privy to this information when she made her charging decision. But if she was, it certainly would have reinforced the idea that this was part of a pattern and practice of criminal conduct on the part of this officer that should not go unpunished, should not go unchallenged. But this man, Stephanie, and I'm assuming, Steph, you got this from the new database that was opened up. I was curious where you got it from, Steph. Could you tell us, Stephanie, where you got this information from? I'm assuming, but I have every reason to believe Stephanie's uncovered valid evidence about the man's disciplinary record, and it reflects very poorly on him. And no one should be defending this guy.
So, since you brought up the words pattern of behavior, pattern of bad behavior, that leads to another story that I wrote this week, where the Mount Vernon PBA president is questioning the deputy police commissioner of Mount Vernon past harassment allegations. The police, his quote was, "The police administration has claimed to be fair and transparent since they came into office, yet they hold officers of Mount Vernon Police Department to a different standard than they expect of themselves," said PBA President Mastro. Ernest Morales consistently fails to negotiate in good faith on disciplinary charges. He continues to punish officers after deals are reached with them, and he even threatens officers that if they leave, telling them they won't be welcome back if they return, all while he's trying to leave himself. And so Mastro was fighting for this one officer who Deputy Commissioner Morales said had two previous civilian complaints that were unsubstantiated. The Mastro, the PBA president, went on to make the argument that the unsubstantiated claims are claims that weren't proved and should not be held against the officer. And he was told by Morales, the deputy police commissioner, that even though the claims were unsubstantiated, they show a pattern of behavior. Herein lies the problem. After some research, Mastro found out that Ernest Morales has 20 New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board claim against him. 20 allegations. One was substantiated. Let's stop there. He's going after an officer who has two unsubstantiated allegations. He has one already that was substantiated. He was exonerated on 16 cases. He was exonerated on 16 cases. The victim was uncooperated on 2 cases. He has 7 unsubstantiated cases and 2 unfounded cases. The argument the PBA president is making, by Deputy Police Commissioner Morales' standards, Deputy Police Commissioner Morales, should be fired as well. You're saying if you're saying that 2 substantiated claims is a pattern of behavior, what is 20? And
what do you think, AJ? Do you think he should be fired?
I'm just making the case that he made, and I'm saying the logic. If this is his logic, because I have yet to talk to the man, I've talked to Police Commissioner Glenn Scott, who defends him. I have yet to talk to Morales myself. But if this is your argument that the person with 2 unsubstantiated claims, there should be discipline because of the pattern of behavior, you have 20 cases and 1 was actually substantiated. So how is that not a pattern of behavior? So by your standards, if that's his standards, then yes, he should be fired by his standards. By his standards. If that in case is his standard, and if everything Mastro reported to Black Westchester was true and nothing was taken out of context, like I'm going from quotes here. You know what I'm saying? I didn't hear the man say the stuff himself. So if everything was written that he said and Westchester is true, then yes, by his standards, he should be fired as well. You can't hold officers below you to a higher standard than you yourself have been. You've been giving a certain grace, and you should,
Did this officer do something and had 2 previous, or did he just go through files, saw him, and said, "Hey, look, I'm going to go after him"?
I don't know. He had 2 previous. It says the officer in question had 2 previous civilian complaints that were unsubstantiated. That's what the PBA president is saying. So that's all I know is what the PBA president said. So yes, it was printed in an article, and one was one of the newspapers. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. This article is also, if anybody wants to read this, I'm going to share this as well in the comments section, so you can all read this yourself. One second. So y'all can read it yourselves. But yeah, that was the other story of the week.
No, but AJ, I'm trying to understand. Did something happen with this officer, and why is this officer being targeted?
I don't know. That is a very good question for people listening, for Police Commissioner Glenn Scott, for Deputy Police Commissioner Ernest Morales. That is a very good question. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. She said she shared the talk of the town article on the New Rochelle case. So those are some of the stories that ran on blackwestchester.com this week. And lastly, I don't think, I guess campaigning, I don't think our guest is coming on. But lastly, the other big story of the week is a judge ruled that the city council and Mayor Sean Patterson Howard cannot usurp the controller and that the money must go to the controller. The city council, there's been enough said that the controller has not been paying bills, and everybody has some variation to that story. Every story that comes out, and as elected official or leader in Mount Vernon, it starts with the controller didn't do this, and that's why this happened. So supposedly the controller is not paying whatever, is not doing her job. I don't know. I have not been able to talk to her. So what they wanted to do was the city council passed a legislation to usurp the powers of the controller given to her by the charter, have the money be accepted by the city clerk, and then have the city clerk sign the money over to the water department. The water department, as we found out with Andre Wallace and Richard Thomas and a few other stories, is not under the same scrutiny as money coming, and you don't have to, it is a separate entity, and you don't have to go through the same procedures that you would have to go through to get money and a check and whatever paid for from the controller. So candidate Derrickson Lawrence, who is running for controller, but more importantly, was the head of the Charter Commission, Revision Commission. And his argument was that you cannot go against the charter and take away the power, no matter what the person did. She ain't been arrested or nothing. She ain't been removed from office. So you can't just usurp her power and go around her. And other people, including my pastor, Pastor Poe from Greater Centennial, felt like this sets a precedent for future mayors. So maybe this mayor has all good intentions. That has not been the case with all of our mayors. So what if we get another mayor in afterwards who intends to rob the city? And you have already set past practices. That word, there's that word again, Bob. Past practices they like to use. We had a conversation recently with that. You've already set a precedent of going around the controller with money coming in, federal funds coming in. So a person trying to rob the city will be able to do that successfully because this precedent that you set. So he went to court. The court agreed to make a halt on it until they reviewed it. The controller, I think, piggybacked off and she went to court. And obviously the judge ruled that the federal funds have to go to the controller. Don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I do know that I do agree with the charter part of it. I don't know. I wrote an article, an editorial before. Is the controller a heroine or a villain? Is everything they're saying about her true, or is she doing some good stuff? Because she also said that she would not, she fought Richard Thomas on not paying his personal legal fees with taxpayer dollars, which is what Richard Thomas was going after her about not paying bills before too. So she's not all bad. A broken clock is right twice a day. I don't know what the story is, but I do know the latest news is a judge just ruled that the money will be going to the controller's office.
We can't hear you, Louise.
And that's the way it should be. I mean, get rid of her, vote her out. Well, she's not coming back. You know, get a new
election, right?
Yeah, get a new controller that's actually going to do the job, and take it from there. I mean, the law is the law, rules are rules. Whether she's breaking them or not, it doesn't mean that like Dr. Bob said, it doesn't mean that you bypass it and you break it too. With everything. That's what I feel.
So that has been the ongoing fight for the last month, and the judge just ruled this week as well. So as you see, there's been a lot going on these last few days, and Westchester. Yes, just for the record, so I can say it here, Stephanie and others, Renee and others, I will be following up with the Greenberg Housing Authority on that situation as a follow up about the seniors being removed and all the latest stuff that has been going on, and that board position being filled without going to the public to let people know that there was even a vacancy. I sent the email asking for an update from the Greenberg Housing Authority. I have yet to hear anything back from them of any substance. I had some other things I wanted to take care of first. I will be following up on that. So anybody who can hear me, anybody who is in Greenberg, anybody who has any information, reach out to us, blackwestchester@gmail.com. Anybody that knows of any seniors who have been displaced or what the town of Greenberg is saying is not true and is in contact with any of the seniors, please reach out to us at blackwestchester@gmail.com. I need other people from Greenberg to step up and give me some information and speak up that have boots on the ground. It's getting crazy. Oh, so they also, I don't know, I guess I talked about this already. So they passed, they got the approval for a Black Lives Matter mural in Greenberg. So the town wanted to add a threefold thing: a mural, signs, and banners. So the first thing they did was put up a sign. On the sign that says "Welcome to Greenberg," under that sign on that same pole, there was a sign that said "All lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter." The sign went up on a Wednesday afternoon. Thursday morning, before broad daylight, before daybreak, someone put a chain around the wooden poles that are holding up the sign posts and dragged the whole sign down, even the Welcome to Greenberg sign down. It was less than 24 hours later. Supposedly the town supervisor received a whole bunch of complaints. We don't want that in our neighborhood. That's a bad precedent in our neighborhood, whatever. They voted to put up a new sign that says racism will not be tolerated in Greenberg, which is not the same thing.
No, not at all.
And they wussed out. I'm sorry. And I was giving them credit because they did something even the city of Mount Vernon, the black city, didn't do. You didn't even have a sign like that in a black city. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a big deal to have that sign. But when I told the people there, you not only got pushback from the white people in Greenberg that didn't want to see that, white people in other communities nearby didn't want to see that either. Because they didn't want the black people in their communities getting no ideas in Scarsdale or anywhere. So I'm quite sure there was
that's so messed up.
I'm quite sure there was some calls from outside of Greenberg to Greenberg Town Hall, like, yo, y'all better get your people in check because we can't have that around here. Like, so it's a shame that the town council folded and now voted for a sign that says racism is not allowed, or will not be tolerated in Greenberg or something. That's not the same as Black Lives Matter, or it's definitely not the same. All lives cannot matter until Black Lives Matter. It's definitely not the same.
They took the word black out.
Right. So that's like, you went in my refrigerator and you drank my 6-pack of Heineken and you replaced it with a 40-year-old English. Like, dude, they're not even on the same level. For those who know what I'm talking about, that's not even the same level of replacement. Like, that's like me taking your brand new Benz or Caddy, crashing it, and returning a used Hyundai to you. That's not the same thing. Yugo. Remember those?
Oh, God, Yugo.
I'm giving you a Yugo now. I'm going to give you a Yugo and replacing your brand new Caddy or Benz that I just crashed. Oh, but you can have this Yugo. It's not the same thing. It's not even the same quality of things. But my brother...
Who was it that came? The city council or the supervisor?
The town council voted. And they had a committee for that Black Lives Matter committee, which comes up under the council or whatever, and they all voted. And there was 7 members of that committee, and Brother Cliff Abrams, was outvoted 7-1 or whatever it was. He was the only one fighting for that. So, I told my brother, I was like, he was upset because the Greenberg White Plains NAACP wasn't a peep. The Westchester Black, Women's, whatever, political, whatever, it wasn't a peep. There was no peep for no Black organization. And he asked me when I was on when I was on his show, why is it that the Asians can get an anti-Asian
real quick?
Because the Asians fought for their shit. That's the answer.
Wow.
Just like
Black people did exception to this. I really have to, because look, I think that when Black people continue to invoke these false parallels with other groups, Asians aren't African Americans. That's the number one important thing to remember. The nation did not go to war over the question of the freedom of Asian Americans. It went to war over the question of the freedom of African Americans. The South does not continue to fume over the lost cause of losing Asians who were enslaved. The lost cause is African Americans. African Americans will have a singular place, have had and will continue to have a singular place in American politics. We are the issue. You can't dog whistle. It's very hard to dog whistle Asians. Less so.
I didn't stop, but I didn't finish. I didn't just say Asians. I said African Americans were not in that area, are not fighting and step up for anything. If it was a Jewish situation, the Jews come out. When there was a swastika on a garbage dumpster.
But you're talking about Asian legislation, which was national, not local.
Right. But there was a fight. They fought for it. There is one, Black people don't get no love in this country anyway. Everybody's gonna get love before the Black people do anyway. But we have to understand, they understand the point of their political power, their political vote. They support these candidates. They fight. Every other group of people stand up for what they want. The Jewish community, anything happens is a war. And they're threatening to vote people out. Hell, they put up a sign that said all lives cannot matter until Black lives matter. And everyone but us called up City Hall, Town Hall, and complained. Get that shit out of here. You can't have that. And they caved. The Black community did not fight for it. Did not fight. I will put it in other terms. I said that Black Westchester will no longer fight for anybody who is not willing to fight for themselves. Not anybody who cannot fight for themselves. Because I am tired of joining people's causes, and when the rocks come back, I am standing by myself and I am the only one getting hit. And the people that I was standing with, you can't find their asses. I say that to say no one else is going to fight for you if you're not going to fight for yourself. That is the point I'm making. I understand the Asian legislation was national and everything, but I'm saying all these groups of people, they come out in numbers and they get the support of others because they're fighting. We don't do enough of that. We talk trash on Facebook and everywhere else. We don't, not where it matters. We don't fight. Not to say there has never been any fights and there's no African Americans fighting. I didn't say that. But we don't stand up and fight. Case in point, Stephanie just said from Greenberg, no Black organization stood with him. He attends all the social events. No Black organization out there stood with him. No black organization had a peep. Nobody said nothing. No black organization said anything. That's my point. No black organization said, let that have been a Jewish sign of anything, there would have been something said. If there was anything other group of people, and while you said not Hispanic,
if it was Jewish, it would have been hatred.
Right,
If it would have been Jewish, it would have been a hate crime.
Which is what Cliff was trying to get them to make it a hate crime, and they was like, they kind of laughed at him when he said that. But while you said Hispanics, Latinos are starting to stand together more than African Americans.
No.
In some cases, they fight in numbers. They understand their political power. They understand that not all Latinos. There's never all anything. There's never all anything. But there have been groups of Latinos, groups of Hispanics. I understand I can't put you all under one banner just because you all speak Spanish. But understand the power of their vote. They stand together. They understand the block, voting in a block, and they fight for what they want. Now, not all people do, and Willie Colon, I've interviewed him, and he said,
I mean, we're getting better. We're getting better. Yeah, that's true.
But it's noticeably is a noticeable difference in what's going on in the Hispanic community, what's going on in the African American community. It's while y'all may be here and y'all need to get here, we're not even where y'all are, and we've been fighting longer. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's every other group of people get it. And no one is going to fight for what's right for black people if black people don't stand up and fight. No one else is going to fight for you. That's the point. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, I actually saw the interview that Cliff did with you. I watched like the first half of it, I think. So, I have several responses. I actually think it's unfortunate, Brother Clifton's response. It should be a victory.
They got to sign up?
No, here I'm talking about the Asian American legislation.
Oh, right, because I was quoting him when I said that.
Yes, no, I know. Right, so I'm saying his reaction, because I saw it. You might say he expressed what we might call resentment. A resentment about people achieving a value that, in all actuality, I think all of us subscribe to. That is to say, people should not be unfairly singled out and targeted for bias acts. So that's number one. Number two, AJ, the lesson that I've learned as both a student of and a practitioner in the Black freedom struggle is we are at our most powerful when we have allies who act in mutual solidarity with us. If we expect people to support us, then we too much support them. And I have to say, you know what really annoys me is that I continuously hear Black people complain about how we've always fought by ourselves. And it's, in fact, untrue. There is no successful abolition of slavery. There is no defeat of Jim Crow. There will be no defeat of the rising tide of white supremacy if Black people don't have allies. It was true in the past. It's true today. Black people did much to contribute to their own.
Right, but what I said is no one is going to fight for you if you don't fight for yourself. No one's going to pick up the fight for you is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that no one has been our ally, but your allies are not fighting your fight for you if you're not fighting.
Well, that's true, but
no, that's the point I'm making. We have to fight for if you want anybody to come in, we have to be fighting, and we're not fighting.
I wasn't addressing you per se.
Yeah.
But rather, I did observe the interview, and I saw, Brother Clifton's remarks, and those are ones that that I really couldn't agree with. I think what we need to be doing is to recognize that actually there's a hidden history of interracial, interethnic solidarity and support that many of us know very little about because we actually don't study American history. A.
Well,
B.
we had a conversation about that recently. Not mentioning names, about, let's just say, a white ally who has been an ally to the cause. It would be shame for her to be painted in a certain light because of certain situations, because and she's somewhat for the cause, even if people don't know that she's for the cause, you know. So we've had a personal local conversation of just that. So yes.
Right. And I guess, like, in our personal conversations, Lorraine, me and AJ were bemoaning a little bit because we just thought it was probably a little unfair, overly distorted this person's record in ways that could be harmful, because really the consensus view is that maybe this person needs to be discarded of altogether, because, you know, it was a grievous, unforgivable violation. And I actually think that, well, you know, this goes back to the point that you were raising about what is the appropriate response when people disappoint our expectations, when our political allies let us down. What's the appropriate response? Because you know what? I'm gonna keep it 100. I've built with Lorraine for 4 or 5 years together now, around this show. I would hope that, should I ever say something or do something that is not in keeping with Lorraine's expectations, and because I'm a good activist and committed organizer, she will say, Bobby fell short. I hope she will allow me to grow, to reflect on it, grow, and perhaps develop the capacity to, you know, live up to her expectations where I didn't before. I hope she just doesn't discard me and throw me away and say, this guy is
about the cancel culture. I started the show. I'm tired of this cancel culture. It's like cancel everything now. Like, just cancel. We have a culture of cancel now.
Right, which means we're not actually exercising any kind of judgment. Judgment requires that you distinguish between what falls between right and wrong. Judgment suggests that the world is not a Manichaean world of all black, all white, all good, all evil, but rather there may be complex shades between there, and we gotta figure this out, because none of us are perfect.
I got one good example recently. A couple of months ago, there was 2 girls fighting or whatever. I think they were both black. And one of the girls pulled out a knife and was about to attack the other girl with the knife. When the cops approached, and they came with guns drawn, and they told her to put the knife down, and she made an aggressive move either to the girl or to the officer, and they shot her. And they were like, oh, another black person shot by the police.
Right.
You know what? And I have to say, in that situation, the police were protected. Maybe it wasn't a threat to them, but they were protecting a threat of somebody else. She was approaching her with a knife, an aggressive motion to another person with a knife, and she refused verbal commands. And in that, we can't. And I say this especially to all those who think we anti-police. You just can't be like, oh, you can't put her in the category with George Floyd and everybody else. She did not adhere to the verbal commands and had a knife, and they're supposed to protect themselves and others. And they protected that. And if that was your daughter that was being attacked by a knife,
you would be like
that cop to shoot that person and protect your daughter if she was, and that's the bottom line. So what happened is, I saw some of our people were like putting her in the barrel with George Floyd and them. Oh, another black person shot by the police. Oh, they just keep killing us. This one does not go into that. We have to be able to separate situations. This does not go into the George Floyd barrel. You understand what I'm saying? I'm sorry. And I don't wish death on any black person or brown person at the hands of law enforcement. But she was aggressively endangering someone's life and not listening to the orders to stand down. And again, if that was my daughter that she had the knife on, I would have no problem with that cop shooting her before she stabbed my daughter. So we have to put things in context. We can't everything in the same barrel. We can't, all police are not bad. Or, There are some situations. Hell, we have to be honest with ourselves. Yo, when I was doing the rap thing, one of the things they
What
had.
does that mean, AJ?
Well, listen. When I was doing the rap thing, they had a new experiment where they had artists come into the jails. So we was in the Brooklyn House of Detention, and yo, we sat there, we performed, us and some other groups, and yo, there are some people that I'm glad that there was a Brooklyn House of Detention. There are some people that deserve to be in jail. There are some of us who do some shit that we shouldn't do. Like, every situation is not an innocent black person getting killed by the police. Every situation is not. But then the police can't look at all of us as that one person and put us all in that same lens either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. We're both judging the many by the few. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yo, you know, you see me, everybody who know me, I'm not a bad dude, but if you see me with the wrong lens, like, yo, I look like whatever I look like to them. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, you can't look at everybody. You can't judge the many by a few. So we can't just judge. And I was just saying, we know there's some people who were shot by the police that if the police didn't do anything wrong in some of those situations. There have been too many where they did, but there are not. Every situation is not that. And that's what we have to be. We have to be clear on those things. We have to be honest with ourselves.
Right. Because yeah, you gotta be honest. I'm sure, AJ, you run into, as I do, as Lorraine does, you run into one or two characters who you're not quite certain where they coming from and what they are about. And you may genuinely fear that they are, have propensity for violence and crazy.
We all see people in our community that we are glad that they're in jails because we all have one or two of those in our community that they need to be locked up. They don't need to be running the streets. They are a danger to everyone and themselves. Every community has at least one.
I agree. There are such persons.
Yeah.
I that's why I don't literally support defunding the police.
No, the funding, and we come into the close of the show. But first off, I want to be clear again. The defunding the police, one by the other side, has been totally co-opted to getting rid of all. And there have been a few radicals have actually said this, but the general premise for defunding the police was that police and police, and this comes from the police, they are asked to answer calls that they should not have to answer because government has shut down policies and programs that should be answering these kind of calls. And they are the 24-hour agency that is the only that they shouldn't be answering a lot of calls for mental health. There are certain calls that don't require a badge and a gun. But who else do you call when all the programs are cut? So instead of throwing more and more money at the police, we need to take some of this money and start funding some of these programs. And that's what the defunding the police originally came to be. Then it was co-opted, and we always got people fall into them traps. Oh, so you're saying we should have no police? So if you ask an angry person that question in the heat, they're gonna be like, hell no, yeah, there shouldn't be no police. And that's the soundbite that you hear forever and ever. That was one person speaking emotionally that day. Like, that's not what this was supposed to. That's not what this meant. And then the other side just ran with it and ran with it and ran with it. And there are some people that feel like we should get rid of the police. And to them, I say, hell fucking no.
Right.
Like, what? So listen. If somebody is coming in my house with guns and they come in to kill people in my house, while I love Bob and I love Lorraine, that's not who I'm calling. I'm calling the police. You understand what I'm saying? While I love the brothers on the street, I'm not calling Snug. I'm calling the police. So you can't defund the police. Now, there have been situations where There have been historical black communities that have policed themselves. We don't have the discipline or the training in most communities to do that right now. So there is no getting away from taking away a whole police force. There's none of that. I'm sorry. Dr. Bob, Lorraine, last words?
This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed listening to you guys. I kind of missed it. There's a lot of knowledge with you two guys. And I just appreciate being here and being allowed to hear and be part of your conversation. Thanks.
And again, tell everybody the new show, when and where.
Latin Rain, REIGN, Wednesdays at WVOX, 7 o'clock. Why are you laughing, AJ?
Shout out to Reverend Darren Morton, who is the chief of staff for Cheryl Patterson Howard, who was a candidate for controller. He said, yes, agreed, reallocation of resources to provide comprehensive services. Thank you very much, sir. Yes.
Yes, Lorraine, I'm going to echo AJ's congratulations. I'll be tuning in on Wednesday. It's a pleasure to be on air with y'all. I'm sorry I arrived late. And,
Lastly, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Yes, we did. We canceled the show on Mother's Day, but we had a show on Father's Day. Yes, we did.
A father's work is never done, AJ.
Yeah. So, hopefully they'll go on the webpage on Black Westchester. Y'all share it for all those who missed it, and continue the conversation in the comment section. Let us hear what your thoughts. Whether you agree or disagree with things that we said, we want to hear why you agree or disagree. We would like to hear from all of you. Please leave your comments and put your feedback in the comment section on blackwestchester.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave it in the comments under the video. And we want to hear from the community. We want to hear from y'all. This is Black Westchester Presents, the People Before Politics radio show. This is episode 304. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. Happy Father's Day. And let us not forget, Juneteenth, while it was a step in the right direction, there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. There are a lot of legislation that is the Senate, who unanimously passed this, is not trying to let go through. Nas Duncan said, happy Father's Day, AJ and Dr. Bob. Welcome back, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Yes. Shout to Nas Duncan. Shout to shout to Patty Combs. She put together a really successful youth discussion, a forum. It took place at Reverend Wheeler's Church, Mount Calvary, CME, the Promise Church on 2nd Avenue across from the library. A lot of our leaders were there. What was great, some of the people brought some of the youth. I think they brought the football or basketball team down. And, one of the things that really moved everybody when the adults was telling the kids, if you see something, you should say, something to your friends. And this one guy got up and said, this one youth said, yo, keeping it real, ain't y'all all the ones that tell us when we see kids with guns and drugs and stuff to stay away from them? We're a little scared to be going over there to say anything to them. We fear for our lives too. If y'all are adults and y'all can't connect to them, what the hell you expect us to do? That was the one comment that shocked everybody in the place. Every elected official, every person sitting there, it just, the youth are scared too, and they have to deal with this on an everyday basis. And we might not necessarily notice that.
That reminds me, AJ, that I did wake up, think maybe like last Sunday or something, or Monday, to find out reports of a shooting that involved Jared Thomas and Tommy Guest.
Last Saturday night, Sunday.
Yeah, into Sunday, and was absolutely astonished. It occurred a couple 100 feet from my mom's crib, and I was really astonished because I know Jared and Tommy, and I think even though they are much younger than me, I consider them, friends, younger friends, nevertheless, and I really do hold them in admiration. They both avoided so many of the pitfalls that were common to men of my generation, including myself. I was worried for them. They avoided it, and the whole Thomas family, from Kenyatta and Jay, Mrs. Thomas, and everyone in between, get credit for that. And so I'm very happy that they both are recovering. Well, I saw Jared. I stopped in and saw him not too long ago when I was at my mom's crib, and he was actually on FaceTime with Tommy. So Tommy looked in good spirits as well. So, but this is again another one of these red flags about gun violence, and the need to try to do something to get our arms around it. Although I must confess that I'm feel totally helpless. It's exactly what to do.
Well, we ran a few minutes over. Lorraine wanted to say goodbye to everybody. She just texted me and said to make sure that I tell everybody goodbye for her. We are at the end.
Yes, lovely. We will see you.
But yes, if you enjoyed any of this conversation, please share the video either on Facebook, share the post on Black Westchester, just share it. Again, we want to hear from all of you. As you see, we did a show about ending senseless gun violence, and we had people from Yonkers, New Rochelle, and Mount Vernon. And I was saying these things cross borders. As you see, we had a shooting in Yonkers. Those individuals arrested on my block in Mount Vernon. And the word on the street is the two young men that you talked about might have been mistaken by people in Yonkers are having something to do with it and innocently, wrongly shot, even though they were the wrong people.
Right.
That is a concern that was a retaliation for what happened in Yonkers. They had nothing to do with it, but they were wrongly.
Oh, okay, got you. Now,
I don't know. That's the fact. That's
one.
That's one of the things being said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, this is real, yo. So we have to. I said that this is going to be one of the worst summers ever. You look across right now. You see the incident. I was somewhere in the Bronx somewhere. Did you see that where dude shooting and he ran and he tripped over two kids and he just tripped over them. He wasn't trying to use them as
use them cover.
He just he wasn't looking. Must have been turning back to the guy that was chasing him and literally tripped over them. And the guy kept going around the kids shooting at him. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo,
he emptied the clip, right?
Yeah, in broad daylight. Like, yo, dude, this is like, yo, it's getting crazy. We need to get involved. I'm going to continue putting a call to action. We need to step up and combat this senseless gun violence by any means necessary. Everybody has a role that they can play. As you see, since we did that show, it has gotten worse. And it's going to get worse, sir. Yes, I said it. It's not a word, but I made it a word. It's going to be worse, sir. So I'm going to keep bringing it up. And that's why I applaud Patty for the panel that she had. And I'm going to encourage her to do a part 2 to that panel. And shout out to all the people that's on the front line for years, like Nas Duncan, Mama I Am, and her organization, and Cynthia. Cynthia brings in those moms demand justice, and we need everybody. We need to support the ones that's out there, and we need to step up. So, what about the pack that stomped a guy almost to death on Ashburton and Yonkers? Like I said, since we did that show, there have been several situations. So as you see, I wasn't just trying to put fear in everybody's heart. I wasn't just putting out dog whistles like, oh my God, it's getting crazy. No, today is officially the first day of summer. Shout out to Save, thank you, Nas. Shout out to Save Mount Vernon, who's also boots on the ground. Jesse Van Loo and everybody involved, and Nas is down with that too. Everybody involved in that boots on the ground. Jesse's doing a great thing with that organization. And there's others that I don't have names for right now off the top of my head, but for all of those that's boots on the ground and trying to get it done, we need to join them. And we need not to let senseless gun violence hit your doorstep before you become an advocate against it. Because as you see with the 17-year-old who was going to his friend's house and was shot 10 something in the morning in a residential area, and his friend's mother opened the door to see her friend's son bleeding out on her doorstep. It can very well be your doorstep next. And that's real talk. With that said, you could be doing anything else, but you decided to ride with us, and I greatly appreciate it. This is the Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show. This is episode 304. Please share it on YouTube. Please share it on Facebook. Please go to blackwestchester.com and share it. Please leave your comments. I cannot encourage that enough. Leave your feedback in the comments section. If you don't agree, say you don't agree with something that was said and tell us why. If you do agree, tell us that you do agree and tell us why. You want to hear us talk about a topic that we haven't addressed yet that needs to be addressed in the community, tell us why. This will be up in a couple hours on blackwestchester.com, and I posted. Please go and leave your comments on the website below the video. With that, up till next week, peace. Oh, wasn't ready for that. Until next week, peace. You are now tuned into the People Before Politics radio show, brought to you by the good folks at
Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Check the newspaper. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Check the newspaper.
Real talk for the community since